Previously on this podcast.
We are celebrating the 20th anniversary of Memory Alpha.
Hello, I'm Dan.
I'm Harry.
Jan and me both started the German Memory Alpha. Dan and Harry started the original.
I have a friend who still has some of the FASA materials, so we do a regular RPG night.
I also play a lot of board games and I love them, but yeah, Ascendancy looks interesting. But I know a few. Star Trek Frontiers is another one it's based on another game.
Card game, not a board game, but a card game. It's named Star Trek The Next Generation Customizable Card Game.
Do you know the new Lego series? Not Lego, it's Klemmbaustein.
Fake Lego, you mean? No.
I mean Blue Bricks, I think.
And now the continuation.
What
yes.
about the domain? There once in a time there was a domain called memory-alpha.org, and now it's not visible anymore, but there is a redirect. We don't own the domain anymore, do we?
No, that happened in 2008. Basically, Wikia asked us. I think it was about the time when the domain had to be renewed for a couple of more years. And then Wikia was concerned maybe that they didn't own that domain, while they did it for the other big wikis, like the World of Warcraft wiki or the Star Wars wiki, or Encyclopedia was also around back then. So, and we were both, well, not really active contributors anymore. So yeah, that kind of led to the transfer of the domain to Wikia. Well, would I do that today? Probably not, but yeah, that's what happened.
Why wouldn't you do this today? And bonus question, why didn't you receive any money for that?
Well, we did receive money for it.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know that. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Why wouldn't I do it today? Well, I mean, obviously they are making money from the wiki these days. So they're obviously a bit more business savvy maybe about this whole thing than we ever were. On the other hand, there are almost no independent wikis around these days. I know the Battlestar Galactica wiki was always independent, but that no longer exists. So it's very hard to do it. You have to dedicate a lot of time to it if you want to do it yourself. And I don't know.
I have a similar, gut feeling myself, is that I wish that I, had or took the time to spend more to maintain it. But with the resources that we had, with the time that we had available, it was something that, was not practical for us. And, we viewed it at the time, we just thought it was just kind of a formality of, because Wikia had been hosting the website for at least 2 years by that point. They'd been hosting Memory Alpha. So we didn't really think all that much of it. I don't remember when they stopped using the Memory Alpha domain as its own, as the primary location for the wiki, and then just turned it into a redirect. Because there's that bit of ego that makes you want to say Memory Alpha should be its own thing, not just one of the bigger aspects of the fandom community of wikis. But at the same time, nobody is a fan, or very few people, I imagine, are a fan of just one single show. So having, Memory Alpha be part of that, just as an outsider perspective, not having been directly involved in running Memory Alpha or coordinating Memory Alpha lately, I do see the benefits of having it as it is. I wish there were fewer ads, a little bit less of the, Chrome and, widgets and doodads on the sides. But overall, I think it's done pretty well for, overall.
Do you think there would be an alternative for Memory Alpha on On an independent, thank you. On an independent service, like, I don't know, crowdfunded or even hosted by Paramount.
I would definitely not give it to Paramount. I don't think that would be very independent, and I'm not sure they are the best at hosting their own TV series on streaming platforms, let alone Memory Alpha. I think you could. I don't think they actually own the content any more than we do. So you can probably just take the content and host your own Memory Alpha under a new name. I think that has happened to a few wikis that split off from Wikia. I know it happened to, I'm also a Warcraft player, so I know it happened to WoWWiki. They split off and became Wowpedia. That was very successful. Although they are not independent anymore as well. They're a different company. So yeah, I think it's definitely possible. You probably would have a problem directing traffic to your new Memory Alpha somehow, because the name
and also getting the participants and the contributors to move, because that would potentially be splitting the fans there.
Yeah, it would be splitting up the database as well. Like now you have two encyclopedias. It would be difficult. And I don't. Yeah, and what would be the point then if you have two definitive encyclopedias? That would be difficult, I think.
So I think it's not out of the question. I see the potential benefits, but it's something that you'd have to be very careful about doing it and make sure that there's enough interest and demand. Whether it's worth it, it's one of those questions like the other things that we've said. I've gotten to the point where I can say we've made the best decisions with the information we had at the time.
Yeah, you're talking about splitting up the database and splitting up Memory Alpha. That's actually what happened in the German version, I think 4 or 5 years ago. And there was a discussion about some new features from fandom and the ever-growing advertisement on the pages, and no fandom staff member actually listened to them, and then they broke up. And someone downloaded the database, and then there is a new Memory Alpha for Germany and the actual fandom Memory Alpha. They are now running in parallel. Yeah, half of the users went away. They didn't stay with the fandom or with the independent website. They just went away. They were so frustrated from the whole discussion that they never came back to any of the projects, and I think this is a sad way to go.
Yeah, that is a disappointment.
Sadly, it's part of how the internet works these days. That the big companies, like people, used to make their own websites, and now, if you're lucky, you make a Facebook group or you just use social media and nothing else. I think, the internet has changed a lot in those years as well.
Jan, you already said this. You were active not only on the German Memory Alpha, but also on some international Memory Alphas, including the English one. How many language versions did you contribute to?
So I mostly use this as setting inter-wiki links. So I remember that it started, of course, out with the English version, then we had the Dutch version, we had the German version, we had the Swedish version for a short time, but I think it never kicked off. We had a French version. As I said, we imported a complete dataset of a Spanish version, Portuguese. And so back then, remember when we could still download the database, I just did run a bot and had it all connected to each other so that you could switch the different languages, which probably then also helped. And okay, if that article is so incomplete, maybe I can have a look in the English version. Maybe it's more extensive there.
So you were just linking the articles between the languages. I had the idea that you would be fluent in 12 languages and contributing articles in these.
No, not so really. So I was able to read in the language what was supposed to be written in there, and then apply also some wiki formatting, but mostly to show the newcomers there how this is done, and yeah. But no, I'm absolutely not fluent in anything else than German and English.
Do you know if Google Translate was a thing back then?
Could be, but I'm absolutely not sure. I recall that reading the Spanish stuff was actually easy to grasp, because you had the knowledge what was supposed to be written in there. And with the Dutch stuff as well. So,
Harry, I think you were active in the Dutch version of Memory Alpha.
No, I actually never was. Well, I made an account. Maybe I did a few things, but I was never really active or involved with the Dutch Memory Alpha. It's also very strange to read about Star Trek in Dutch. It's you have to. I'm used to talking about Star Trek in English mostly.
Yeah, because you see the series and the films in English.
Yeah. We don't have voiceovers like in Germany. We usually have subtitles. So if you want to write about it in Dutch, you actually have to translate it yourself, which is quite difficult. Like, what do you do with alien names?
Okay. Or the technobabble.
Oh, yeah. How does that work in Germany? Is there a group of people that make the official German translation for all this Star Trek stuff?
Well, the movies, but actually they follow quite a system. So for some very odd reason, for a very, very long time, we had all the Star Trek ranks, or the ranks in the English form, except for the ensign, where they used a completely unrelated name for this, in non-commissioned officers' rank title for it. So they called him Fähnrich. But everything else is quite Germanized. So it's kind of the natural way how you translate stuff that's in there. In the very old, it's on the original series, that we had this system that the one TV station bought it and created a translation system, and they only bought 1/3 of the episodes randomly from all 3 seasons. So if you now watch them in sequence, at the one point, Captain Kirk says, let's go to Sol 5. And in the next episode, he says, let's go to Warp 5. And so for some reason, they translated stuff like this. But I mean, we have the lithium crystals, dilithium kristalle.
I think I can one-up you, because the German television version of the original series, so the episodes were cut from, I think, 40 or 45 minutes back to 30 minutes. So you lost 15 minutes of time. So you have to leave out some things. And in one episode, actually, when Spock had his Ponfar, they cut the whole episode back and forth and changed the meaning, because they were worried that all the innocent children were now confronted with Spock, who had some weird feelings, you understand. And so he had a space fever at the moment, and he was sick. And then at the end of the episode, miraculously, he was, however, healed. So this made no sense, well, howsoever. But nowadays you can get the original series on Blu-ray, I think. They remastered it. they recreated the special effects with computer graphics, and they recreated the dubbed or voice-overed missing pieces.
Yes, right. In the TV, it's now also that they broadcast the remastered versions only, and in one scene, just a cut, the voices are completely different. So completely different language actors that are there. Yeah.
Yeah, and in the Netherlands, you don't have that. That's
No, it was always broadcast in English, but with Dutch subtitles. But yeah, usually don't bother translating alien names or technology names. So even the subtitles, you just use the English words for that.
Yeah, but I think on the DVDs you also see or hear the different styles, how the different languages exist, and I think there's also a French dubbing.
Yeah, and actually about Blu-rays and DVDs, the Dutch DVD market has completely, well, almost disappeared. So when I have to buy like those 4K movie releases now, I have to buy the German releases because there are no Dutch releases anymore. Yeah, sadly. And the English ones from the UK, well, Brexit, that's too expensive. So yeah.
Okay, I understand that you can't buy a CD or a DVD or whatever physical media now in the brick and mortar store down the road, because for us in Germany, the CDs and DVDs disappeared, and Amazon has an online store and you can order that on this way. But there is no market for Dutch DVDs?
But I recall that my episodes of my first DVD set of the remastered series, I imported them from the Dutch because they were cheaper than buying in Germany.
Yeah.
For some odd reasons.
That's interesting.
And I was very worried that I might not have a German language track on there.
But usually you get the same European ones, I think. Yeah.
As far as people, contributing, I wonder if part of it is there is a heck of a lot more Star Trek now. 2019 is when Lower Decks started coming out, right? So I wonder if it's just that because there's more and more, it's harder to keep track of it all. At least there's the perception of that, perhaps, because technically we're not really getting much more Star Trek, or at least last year in 2022, we had about 50 or 51 episodes. And that's about the same number as what we had in the average year when we had two series, whether it was, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, when two of those shows were running concurrently. So it's not that there's all that much more. It just feels like it's more in a way because there's more series, different stories. And so there's more to keep track of. And so maybe some people are just feeling like a little burned out from trying to keep track of it all. Just speculating there.
Talking of Lower Decks, that might actually be one of my favorite new series.
Oh, I love Lower Decks. Lower Decks
so
and
good.
Strange New Worlds are my two favorites.
Yeah. And I think I'm not 100% sure, but I suspect they actually add things just so they get to write about it on Memory Alpha.
Yes, it's like sitting, I discovered this, I know that. Yes, yeah.
I wonder where it's going, because Discovery is now, is cancelled the right word, or at least it's ending?
I'd say canceled because they weren't planning to end the show.
Okay.
So that's how I would put it.
I really enjoyed the last season. I thought moving the story to the far future and actually coming up with a new style for Starfleet and stuff like that was really interesting.
I very much enjoyed Discovery as well. There's, different things that I feel clash with my own preconceptions of the show, but I love a lot of the characters. I love the messages that they have, especially as the show has gone on. So I am very sad to see it go.
Yeah. And I wonder what it means for like the big connected universe ideas they seemingly had or have. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, who knows what the production will bring? It's everybody seems to want to cut costs now, at least for a while. There'll be another cycle soon enough, I hope. Star Trek survived 2 droughts already. I know we'll be okay.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, probably it was also live on in books and novels and stuff like this. Not that I have touched them, but yeah. I think that was always what kept it alive.
I think this is a good length at this point. It's 2.5 hours.
It came to me like 10 minutes, so I have no idea how we spent 2.5 hours with each other without it wasn't boring. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, it was very interesting indeed. So thanks, Florian, for setting this up, for having this idea, for bringing us all together, making use of what we learned in the pandemic.
Yes.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for attending. Thank you for answering, because I actually got in touch with a lot of people to join me. And a lot of administrators from Memory Alpha didn't answer or just answered once and then never again. I have no idea what they have against me.
Well, Florian, thank you so much for organizing this, because, when we started Memory Alpha, we never really... we just had an idea of a project. It was something we wanted to do, and there was no end in sight. It wasn't something where we would ever think, okay, we're done.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's continued is just a testament to how many people love the show and have this common interest and just want to, share and, share the things that they've noticed and also pick up on the things that everybody else has noticed in the show.
It's a miracle for me that this website was so dramatically increasing in purpose and in value for the production side of Star Trek over the years. So 20 years in the making, and it is now something in the toolbox of the writers' room. And I think this is very, it's a unique thing, I think.
Yeah, and it's powered by the fans, really. So that's really interesting. It's like a feedback loop of some kind. Yeah. And I think we should also thank all the contributors over the years that have actually written all these articles for us and for the whole community. So, yeah.
There are 70,000, more than 17,000 users on the Memory Alpha in English, with one or more contributions. That's the reason why I just counted the users with more than 100, because I couldn't make a statistic with 17,000 users, and it's a large number.
Yeah, we definitely didn't have that in mind in 2003. But yeah, very happy that it worked out, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I figured it would be a few dozen people that would contribute.
Yeah,
and then
basically
it just kept on going and going.
The guys in that Flare topic, those people would write a few articles, and then we'd move on to the next database. Yeah.
What do you think the vision of Star Trek would be in 20 years, or your vision of your life would be in 20 years?
For Star Trek, I would say that it's going to continue to be a reflection of our hopes and our fears. And I think that's part of why Star Trek, there's been a lot of discussion about what we have currently. Discovery, in a way, I think is a reflection of our fears over the last, 5 to 8 years of everything happening in the world. And then how do we react to that? How do we hold on to what makes us human in that type of a world? And so, in a way, I think that because Star Trek is aspirational, it's really hard to predict exactly what it will be like. but I think there's always something that we're striving for. So Star Trek, whatever it looks like, Memory Alpha, I think it can keep on going as long as there's a place to support it. And as we discussed earlier, if, the corporation has an issue, thankfully, because of the structure, we can still recreate it and move on and build it, and somebody can. So I think at this point it may have, and a potentially indefinite life. That doesn't mean infinite, but indefinite. Who knows how long it'll go?
Yeah, I think what you said is right. Star Trek is always a reflection of the time where it's made in. And I also think Star Trek is at its most interesting when it's trying new things, telling new stories. But yeah, it can do so many things. Like one of the things that Discovery actually showed us is you can tell the same story again or in a different setting, or it's not all as fixed as it sometimes looks. So yeah, I think there can be a whole lot more Star Trek in the next 20 years.
Yeah, so the original Star Trek was just a Western in a different setting. So Star Trek will always reinvent itself and give the current generation the Star Trek that is living there. We saw the reinvention with the Next Generation, a small variation with Deep Space Nine, and then again with Enterprise, trying to fit in somewhere in the universe, but being adapted to that time. And also the new movies are essentially the very same approach, always taking that theme and putting it in a current generation. Hope that we will continue seeing that.
Yeah, I hope so too. So Star Trek is ever evolving, but always staying the same. And connected with the reality and with the time, and time is changing, so Star Trek is changing. Thank you for your participation and thank you for your kind words for me. I hope I see you soon. And for the viewers, thank you for watching, and maybe there will be a second or a third season. Okay. See you. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Thanks, Florian.
Yeah.